highest poll numbers that I've ever had. And, you know, based on what I read, I guess I'm not allowed to run. So we'll see what happens.
Johnson says you're trolling when you talk about a third term.
Well, I don't think he said that. I don't think he'd use that term, but it's a very interesting thing. I have the best numbers for any president in many years, any president. And I would say that if you read it, it's pretty clear. I'm not allowed to run. It's too bad. I missed.
All right, so we're going to see what we have today. I hope this week has been good for you guys. It's always a crazy week in politics with our president. So today I just kind of want to go over what has happened in the last couple of weeks to a week, and we'll see what the top news is. We're going to discuss things like, obviously, the government shutdown. I'm not sure if we'll talk about that first or last, so just make sure you stick around to make sure you get that information. I'll give my thoughts on that. Trump came out a few days ago and the terrorists were back on with China at 100%. So we'll go over that game as well, and I'll share my thoughts. We also will have, I believe this has to do with the total lockdown of the border, which has happened. There's some discussions about the popularity of how this is getting done. Even Trump's polls are falling, even with his own party. So we'll see if that's still going on. There's a refugee admissions cap. It's set a record low. So we'll talk about that as well. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you think I missed or anything that you think we should discuss, and I'll try to go over it. So, long intro, but let's get into it. You know what? Let's just go ahead and start with what I have on the screen here. Trump says Senate should scrap the filibuster to end the government shutdown. I wonder if there's going to be any positive vibes here, or where's the blame going to get shifted? So let's see. All right, President Donald Trump is calling on the Senate to scrap the filibuster so that Republican Party can bypass Democrats and reopen the federal government. Now, I know that this is a thing that kind of happens no matter whether Democrats are in charge or Republicans are in charge. I truly don't know how to solve this. We have the people that are supposed to be the best of us that can no longer find a way to sit down and talk. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because the funny thing is, our whole lives as children, when you're at the playground, when you go to school for the very first time, when you're in a daycare, we are taught that it is our duty to actually come together and conversate and to come together and solve problems. We are taught that from a young age, yet we have our leaders that are supposed to be the best of us not able to sit down and talk. And then we have our actual leader that seems incapable of knowing that this country is not just his team. And maybe this is the fault of the whole two-party system that I don't think when this country was created they thought about this. I also think that they didn't think people would be this dumb now and things would turn into a literal popularity contest. As much as I don't condone what those people did, they did have good traits that we do not seem to have anymore in our country. They did fight for truths of things, whether they were Christian or non-Christian, it's irrelevant to that, but they did fight to seek the truth. They did consider it to be a great honor to be humble. President Washington, right? Like, you know, and he could have been president forever, right? So it's just like there's certain things that these men put in place that I do condone, and we are seeming to regress even past that. It's funny how We want to pick and choose which parts of history we want. And the things that are the hardest usually are the simplest, but usually are the most important, which is being able to admit when you're wrong. If I can kind of encompass everything into one little bubble, it's a bubble of being able to admit you could be wrong. And just that thought alone would allow so many different conversations. You should try that in your life and see what happens. Just the thought of thinking that you could be wrong will allow you to have one of the greatest conversations you probably ever had with yourself and with another person. So sorry about going off on that. So let's get back into it. So the filibuster is a long-standing tactic in the Senate to delay or block vote by keeping the debate running. It requires 60 votes in the full Senate to overcome a filibuster, giving Democrats a check on the 53-seat Republican majority. That lead to the start of October 1st shutdown when the new fiscal year begins. Okay, so Trump wants to terminate this. Now, to be fair, since these people do think they are at war, this is just a power play. So it is hard to judge because they think they're at a war. And when you're at a war, you would never expect your enemy to do anything that would benefit you, right? That's why it's a war. But here's the thing, guys. We aren't supposed to be warring with each other. We are supposed to be the United States. And in general, we do all have the same values. It's just on how we want to get to that goal. But the ultimate goal is for us all to be prosperous. It should be. If you look at a fellow American and you don't want them to be prosperous, you aren't American. So yeah, let me know what you think about that one. Is it a good strategy? How do we stop this from happening? How do we stop all of this bickering in between parties? Personally thinks it starts with us, the citizens, because as soon as we start talking to each other differently, we will elect those same type of people. At the moment, you just elect yourself. So our society. So maybe we should start treating each other a little bit better outside of politics, which is still politics. And our representatives are people that think they can't be leaders right now can become leaders because society is what makes the leaders. So if we have a problem with our leaders at the moment, we should look at our society and see what's going on and stop looking for the leaders to fix society and society start fixing the leaders. All right, meeting with Trump and Xi, right? So it's a shifting of power and dynamic and display. They always have to have these very passionate, bold titles to scare the shit out of you. All right, let's see what happened. All right, this is in South Korea. I'm not even going to try to say that name. So Donald Trump and Xi Jinping's trade truce, another truce. How many times is this now? 4, 5? Let me know, because I truly believe that these people are just playing with our lives, because anything that goes wrong in the world truly does not affect them like it affects us, especially in the moment, because one party has so much power. They are literally not afraid of anything. And that's dangerous. That's why the balance of power is so important. But back to this. Trump and his trade wars, it just looks like a game. He's literally has a controller and he's playing a trade war game. It's a sim type game, I guess, because the fact that anyone is okay with just tweeting out, I'm doing 100% tariff, I'm doing 200% tariff, next day I'm not. Our leader should not be this fragile or this, like, it's literally a bipolarness going on. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not making any diagnosis, just an observation. Our president is getting older, so who knows? So Xi Xi entered Thursday summit with the United States president in a far stronger bargaining position compared with their last face-to-face meeting in 2019. I'll be honest, I didn't know it's been that long since they have met. I thought they spoken this year, but guess I'm wrong. And he left the talks with some rare concessions in a form of partial rollback of technology-related export controls. We are the technology countries, right? Everyone comes to these two countries for almost all tech. Obviously, not all tech, but most or all tech even runs through these countries. So, whether it's the U.S. and Japan, right? So it's I'll be honest, I'm not too sure what. Maybe China is just its own. I'm sure China actually probably is its own economic factory with its chips and those type of things. But I regress. You get my point. And if you can expand better than me, I'm still learning a lot of these things and still educating myself on these things because I want to share any knowledge I have and gain knowledge. So feel free to, let me know what I'm missing out on there. So in the face of the winds, waves, and challenges, notice all these words, we should stay the right course, navigate through the complex landscape, and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-U.S. relations, Xi said. Who talks like that? Like, who really talks like that? It's funny to me. I'm sorry. I know it's supposed to be like a political statement and it has to have certain words. We just gotten to the point now to where we do not care that everyone knows that these people are fake. But those aren't his words. We're told to be real people. We're told to be honest. But guess what? Our leaders get to be these fake things. I know a little bit of our society itself is fake too, but they take it to a whole nother level. Let's see if Trump says anything here. All right. So I think it's just basically more and more about this war that is going on between China and the US, and it's going to keep going on probably forever. Trump's not the first person to make mistakes or help or deal with China. These back and forths go on all the time. To me, it just lets you know what is really important to these people, and it's not us. And until we on either side can have these kind of conversations and stop being used by these parties and these people and these corporations, we're going to continue to have these kind of discussions. So let's move on. I mean, I see the refugee admission cap. I'm assuming that this is just the same, Trump did shut down the border. Now we can have a discussion on whether you agree with how the border was shut down. I definitely disagree on a lot of it, but he did get the job done that he said he would get done. Just, I don't believe it's in, not the ends do not always justify the means, especially when you are trying to say that you are the superior intellect in your morals. So it should have been what he said, where it was just criminals getting off the streets. But because he's a big numbers person, the numbers weren't enough. There weren't enough criminals, or there weren't enough criminals that they could actually catch, because I'm not saying that they caught all of the criminals. Of course not. That's not how it works. But we usually in society will take that hit of not catching all of the criminals because we have morals. We don't want to break the rules to catch the criminals because that makes us criminals. And that's why it's supposed to work that way. But it seems with what's going on with ICE, they are just taking that moral ground, stepping down from it while pretending they're still on the higher moral ground. There's plenty of videos I've seen. There's a U.S. citizen. There was a lady, an older lady, that they just grabbed out of a courthouse. And it was the scariest thing to watch. It was, you just see them like, hey, go get her. And I'll try to find that video and I'll play the clip. But that is not what anyone wants. If you look at that and you smile or you feel any pride in that, you should be worried. You will be the first person in line as well and yelling back for help, because as you see, they started off with, I'm going to catch criminals, and there weren't enough. So what do? They go to the next one. And that should show you the process and how this works. If they're not catching enough, they'll go find someone else. And that has to do with a lot of law enforcement. They have numbers to do, they have numbers to make, they have shareholders to please, and those numbers have to look good. So if they don't find enough people, you will be the next one, because you are not an elite. And the elite are held up by non-elite people. So remember that one. Anyone of you are okay with deploying troops in cities and the rhetoric that has been said by our president about U.S. citizens being enemies while also using our military in U.S. cities? This should scare everyone. And not because of the past or anything like that. It should scare you right now. I don't have to bring up any other event in history to try to prove a point. It should scare you. And the party that I used to be with should be the first to step up and condemn this, because Republicans are the party of hell no, no military goes in the streets. But why are we allowing this man to almost break one of the foundations of being a conservative or Republican? You really need to think about that, my Republicans out there, because you are against one of the core beliefs if you condone Trump sending troops to cities. And if you're making an excuse just for him, you have to ask yourself why. And listed down in the comments below, I already know the things you're going to say, but I want you to say them out loud so we can have a discussion, and then you can maybe possibly come into the light, because that is not a conservative thing to be okay with deploying troops in U.S. cities. And that's what I'm going to say on that. And for now, I think we're going to be done, because I do want to end on that one. I want a lot of you to understand that none of us should be okay with the government overhaul that's going on at the moment, because it is not taking away government power. It is funneling all of the power into the executive branch. And here's my final warning to you. You do not want that to happen, because that means whoever's in power, you are at their whim. And if you're a conservative out there, you would be so against that. And if you're a Democrat, you're already against it. So guess what? You guys agree. So we really need to think about that one. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. I'll try to get a video for Monday, and you guys click your buttons. Let me know what you think. J Knight out. Peace.